Talking about a revolution sounds. Don't you know? Talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the uniformed lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know? Talking about a revolution sounds. Who are people gonna rise up, get their share? Who are people gonna rise up, take what's there? Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the table are starting to turn. 'Cause finally the table are starting to turn. 'Cause finally the table are starting to turn. 'Cause finally the table are starting.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, the 28th day of August 2014, and if you can hear the sound of my voice, then you are the revolution. My name is Smokin Mekhael, and this is the revolutionary nightly news, smashing through the lies of the New World Order, bringing you peace, love, and freedom. Today we're going to talk about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and how they want to drag Australia and the rest of the world further into that. I'm going to talk about the police state at home. I'm going to talk about how police in Victoria are taking away change, loose coins from homeless people, saying that they're proceeds of crime. I'm going to talk about the VLAD, the bikie, anti-bikie laws in Queensland, and how they're stopping freedom of association and how they're destroying freedom of expression. Let's get into this. In an article from the Interpreter, Australians back tougher anti-terror laws. The early numbers are in on the government's proposed toughening of Australia's anti-terror laws, and they make for interesting reading. According to News Poll, 77% of respondents were in favour of the latest law that would require individuals who travel to a pre-designated conflict zone to prove that they had not been in contact with any terrorist groups. This result is significant. It is very significant. It shows that the majority of people, 77% thereabouts, are still buying the government propaganda about the war in the Middle East. Even after 9/11, which was a clear false flag attack, even after the 13 odd years of war since then, even after they fund Al-Qaeda, even after they fund ISIS, even after it's been documented that they run both sides of this operation so many times, even after all this information has been made public, people still buy into the lies, people still buy into the government as their daddy who's going to protect them from the evil man who's going to come blow them up, when in reality the government is the biggest threat and the biggest destroyer of liberty and freedom and health in history. And that's why we must abolish the government peacefully. We must come together and realize that they are not healthy. They are only out for power for themselves, and they are seeking to destroy free humanity as they seek to consolidate their power. But we're not going to allow that to happen. Even though the majority of people are buying into this garbage, even if they're still buying into it, more people are waking up day after day. They're realizing that, hey, weren't America and their allies funding the resistance to Bashar al-Assad a few years ago? Weren't they the same guys who are there calling ISIS now, who they're calling ISIL now? It is ridiculous, playing one side off against each other in an Orwellian chess game. But this is no chess game, because people are really dying. And the more that people buy into the government line, the more people that are going to die. I'm calling on you to research what's really going on and discover the truth for yourself. there are going to be more terror laws. There are going to be more laws that restrict people's freedom. Already in Australia, you can be arrested, detained, locked up in a dungeon without warrant. This has happened after 9/11. They're bringing in new laws all the time that take away people's basic liberties, so the government can enact war here in Australia. This article is discussing from The Age. Proceeds of crime seizure beggars belief. Police are seizing coins and cash from beggars in Melbourne's CBD as proceeds of crime, according to reports from homeless people and welfare workers. Youth projects say they have had up to 8 cases in the past year of police confiscating the meagre proceeds of the homeless after they were charged with the offence of begging alms. The welfare group's chair, Melanie Raymond, said in one case on Christmas Eve, a man was forced to put his takings into a charity box. We think begging should be decriminalised because it's penalising people for being poor and hungry. City worker Philip Steindl said last month a homeless man that begs near his office on Little Collins Street had $20 from his coffee cup taken. This is because government are thieves. Their very nature is to steal something from you and to use it for their own benefit. They took money from a homeless man and asked him to put it in a charity box. Is that the definition of irony? It goes beyond irony. That's a definition of evil. That's a definition of disgusting. These clowns who run government think that they can steal from us through the form of taxation. They can steal through us through levies. They can steal through us through tolls on the road. They can steal through us through taxes on food. They steal through homeless people. They steal from homeless people by taking it straight out of their hands. They are by nature, government is by nature a thieving, murderous, manipulative group. And we need to take them down. Moving on to more news here in Australia. From the Gold Coast Bulletin, tough Gold Coast judge Clive Wall warns restaurant owners face massive fines or jail if they allow bikies into their venue. Queensland's toughest judge. How about Queensland's most cowardly judge? All he is part of the greatest, most evil, most murderous gang in history, which is government. He's not the toughest man. He's not the toughest anything. He's called on the Gold Coast's most exclusive restaurants to help ban criminal motorcycle gang members from their premises, warning they faced massive fines. District Court Judge Clive Wall warned restaurants they faced massive fines if they let bikies enter or remain on premises under the government's bikie legislation. Judge Wall addressed dozens of the city's finest restaurant owners this week at the Restaurant Industry Support Group on the risks of serving a bikie. The group was stunned to discover that by allowing a criminal motorcycle gang member in a licensed restaurant, they risked an $11,000 fine. Can you see how the government is cracking down on everybody? Whether it's homeless people, whether it's people in motorcycle gangs, whether it's people who are speaking out against them. The government incrementally is bringing in more laws and more regulations that restrict freedom of association, restrict freedom of expression, restrict human freedom on all levels. These VLAD laws have affected a lot of people in Queensland. Queensland VLAD law at work. Pizza delivery man jailed for the past 21 days for delivering pizza to bikie members. This is how insane it is. Excuse me. Police continue to use VLAD laws to harass people in Queensland. Public harassment and unjust imprisonment is becoming commonplace in Queensland since Premier Newman and his cronies introduced the Vicious Lawless Associates Directive. I can't imagine a more apt name for government than Vicious Lawless Associates. Widespread repercussions on missing people are being reported because of the broadness of its application and the free rein being given to police to apply it. While one motorbike enthusiast claims to have been pulled over 21 times already, the story of the harassment of everyday small business people and their customers indicates how the legislation is being used well beyond its state-intended targets. They never use this legislation for the ostensible targets. They say that it's for terrorists, it's for you. They say that it's for bikies, it's for you. The government is a group of murderous eugenicists who don't value the human race. They see you as something to be exterminated. Well, I'm standing here saying, you're not going to do it on my watch. People are waking up all over the world. There is an awakening. And the forces of evil had better listen up. You have no chance against the forces of love, against the forces of peace, against the forces of freedom. That was from indiemedia.org.au. Now from proctorlaw.com.au. Those of us in the legal profession have long known that the principle of attributing guilt to a person because of his or her association with persons, commonly referred to as guilt by association, is hardly a conclusion that can be arrived to prove a person's guilt at law. It seems, however, with the introduction of the Vicious Lawless Association Disestablishment Act, which was passed into law in 2013, the Newman government has surpassed all expectations of the most trenchant supporter of Nazism. A member of Hitler's Gestapo would be proud to associate, pardon the pun, with such laws. And it goes on to quote a famous statement from Martin Niemöller in reference to Germany's Nazi rise to power and their removal of certain groups might prove to be history repeating itself as the West tries to deal with law and order issues by the introduction of draconian laws. And to quote that poem, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Now, we might be witnessing history repeating itself, but I believe that history will be different this time. First they came for the Muslims, and I stood up for them, even though I'm not a Muslim. Then they came for the homeless, and I stood up for them, even though I don't have a home. Then they came for the motorcycle gangs, and I stood up for them, even though I don't ride a motorbike. And then they came for me. And people stood up for me because I had the guts to stand up for others in their time of need. Well, that's my plan. I really hope that it works. I think the fact that you're tuning into this transmission makes me think that you understand what's going on with the world. You really want to see a world where peace and love and freedom from oppression is the norm, where we don't have tyrannical powers trying to squeeze us every day of our lives and killing people all over the world. I really think that you should look into these issues yourself. You should make a big noise about these issues to your friends and on social media. I know that we're going to win. I know the power of love will prevail. And I believe and declare that you and I together are going to defeat the New World Order. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the revolution.